Beautiful, isn't it?
We have watched, unguided. We have helped them progress, and seen them accomplish wonders. Throughout the years, we have never interfered. Until now.
Ended when you said goodbye.
Thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome.
So now that Captain Rogers and Iron Man are both gone, who do you think's gonna lead the Avengers?
I could lead them.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Observation Conversations, where today we are going to be reviewing Marvel Studios' proper, I should say, third and final film of 2021, The Eternals. And can I just say, I'm very, very excited to be doing this review finally. My name is Jonathan Goodisonor. I am joined as always by my eternal and seemingly never aging co-host, Reid Chrisman. How you doing, Reid?
I feel young.
And today, as you can see, we are once again joined by one of our favorite people, one of our favorite guests, Matthew Saha. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be back and glad to be talking about Marvel this time, not Star Wars.
Absolutely. You know, it should be noted that, of course, as we saw with Solo and The Mandalorian, of course, all three of us are huge Star Wars fans, but also, as the audience will see today, all three of us are also huge MCU fans. So
what a gaggle of nerds we are. This trio.
I know, right? You know, it's we
Star
just,
Wars, Marvel, DC.
We just seem to find each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
So as usual, we'll do a short non-spoiler section, then we'll jump into the plot synopsis and all the spoilers and speculative questions and all the goodies from there. But first, to start us off in non-spoilers, instead of just giving the broad overview of what we think and giving it a score, I want to do this a little bit differently. I want us to give our non-spoilers by answering a question. And this is a question that really has really stuck with me ever since I saw the movie. And it's honestly, I've become obsessed with it. Marvel Studios' The Eternals is the first MCU film. I think it's his number 25, number 26, somewhere in there in terms of, how many MCU films we've gotten. And this is the first one to get a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm looking at it now. It currently stands, as of our filming of this, at 47% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's critic score?
That's the critic
What is
score.
audience score?
The audience score is about 80%, so pretty good. But it should be noted that on on Metacritic, how they'll do like kind of like exit interviews, like audience exit interviews, that got like a B, like audience score, which normally like Marvel films will get like an A-, like at lowest. So this is definitely an outlier in terms of the reviews. And it's the 26th MCU film, the first to get a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. And so the question I want to ask you guys is that score deserved? Do the reviewers and the lower audience score get it wrong, or are they correct?
I'm gonna say, oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I will say that it is deserved. I felt that there were many flaws with this movie. There were a lot of good moments. It had a lot of good material. I don't think it utilized that material to its fullest potential. Chloe Zhao, phenomenal director. Movie was gorgeous, amazing cinematography. It did not need to be 3 hours long. It did not handle introducing 10 characters well. And we are in the no spoiler section, so I won't say how it ends, but the ending didn't make much sense. So, yeah, I feel like the score was deserved. That's not to say that this is bad. I mean, this is still a Marvel movie. It's still really well done. And personally, I would probably rank this above like Thor: The Dark World and The Hulk. I would not say that this is the worst Marvel movie. But I don't think it is grade A material.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Rotten is anything lower than a C, 70%, right?
60%.
60. Oh, even more. I don't think it deserves this Rotten score, and this is shaping up to be a very interesting episode, Reid, because
yeah, I predict now we're gonna be butting heads a little bit, but
just a bit. Yeah, I thought for introducing 10 characters, I feel like they used the 3-hour runtime to its fullest. I don't feel like they wasted much time anywhere. The weakest point in the movie, I would say, is the ending, again, staying away from spoilers. So I'm in agreement with you there. But I pretty much liked all of these characters. All the ones I meant to like, at least.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to see why we think different as we make our way through. But I'd give it a B. I'd agree with that audience exit survey or whatever.
Well, I'm very excited because, one of the very first pieces of advice, I guess, one of the very first kind of constructive criticisms that I received about, us in this show is that, what we're doing is great and obviously we love doing it, but wouldn't it be good because we tend to watch stuff that we either both really like or really don't like, we tend to agree a lot. Wouldn't it be good if we could get like a Siskel and Ebert thing going where, we disagree and we can kind of hash out why we disagree.
Well, hey, my friend, I do love playing devil's advocate.
It's true. It's true.
I will play devil's advocate whenever.
And I think we're finally going to do it because I have to say, I'm completely with Matthew on this, and let me tell you why I really disagree because,
no spoilers yet.
No spoilers, of course, but I have to say that I really liked the Eternals coming out of the theater, and honestly, we're reviewing it about 2 weeks after it came out. I like it even honestly I love it now. I really liked it coming out of the theater, and I love it now. Like Black Widow, I saw that opening weekend. We reviewed it about a month later. I liked it about the same. Shang-Chi, saw that opening weekend, reviewed it about a month later. I liked it a little bit more, but it was just went from I loved it to I still love it pretty much. This I went from I really like it to this could definitely be in the conversation for my favorite MCU movie this year. It's still Shang-Chi for the moment, and obviously Spider-Man will probably blow the lid off the whole thing.
Yep.
But, I mean, I really did love The Eternals, and I disagree fervently with the critics on this. I think the 47% is entirely undeserved. I mean, and there's a lot of reasons why, and we'll get into these more later in the episode, but I feel like there's just so many contradictions in the logic that the reviewers are employing to get to a negative review of the Eternals. So
Could you break that down for me a little bit?
Yeah, so let me tell you what I mean. So the first thing is, obviously one of those common criticisms of the MCU is, well, I feel like I'm just watching the same movie and over again. You've got the Marvel house style, you've got the same story beats that all the movies tend to follow. This is what a Marvel critic, an MCU critic would say. You know, you've got the same story beats, you've got the same kind of in-house style. They all kind of look and feel and play the same. When is Marvel finally going to break out of the MCU formula and just deviate and just go off in just completely different directions? This movie did that. I really feel like this movie and Chloe Zhao's direction of this movie really went off the beaten track of what we've seen from Marvel in the past. I feel like she really did a great job of addressing so many of those things that MCU critics have said they've wanted for years and have wanted to see for years, and yet they've only penalized her for it. So that's one thing. The other thing, to kind of expand off of that, is people say, well, it feels like Chloe Zhao, who is this absolutely acclaimed director, obviously the sitting Best Director, Best Picture winner for 2021, they say that, well, isn't it a shame that she's kind of now been just installed into the Marvel machine? So on the one hand, you have people saying that, oh, well, it didn't do enough to break out of the Marvel formula. And the other people who are saying that, well, this isn't a Chloe Zhao movie. You know, that this is just her being another cog in the massive entertainment machine that is Marvel. And I disagree with that completely as well. I feel like her direction, again, was really unique. It was really different for the MCU. There was a lot that was so distinct from what we've seen before in the MCU and was very, very bold in a lot of ways. And you have to remember that, you know, Chloe Zhao, what she did with this movie, just in terms of bringing it into reality, is entirely unique, because normally what will happen is either Marvel has a list of directors that they're interested in for a certain project and they'll pursue those directors, or even more common, obviously, you have a very long list of directors who would love to work with Marvel. But what Chloe Zhao did was you had a mutual interest, and she actually came into Marvel and pitched them on the Eternals, and then they went with her vision from there. And I feel like this was that vision realized from beginning to end. So that's kind of what I'm saying in terms of the double standard. Also, honestly, it just doesn't make any sense, because I guarantee you that 9 out of those 10 reviewers who got the score down to just a 47% would not make the argument that this movie is worse than Thor: The Dark World, that this movie is worse than Iron Man 2 or The Incredible Hulk, that this movie is less unique than Captain Marvel or Ant-Man and the Wasp or Ant-Man. You know, this movie is less essential than, you know, take your pick, than Black Widow, or, you know, take your pick, honestly.
Yeah.
So, honestly, it boggles my mind that this is the movie to get such a low score, the first rotten score in the history of the MCU. I think it's completely undeserved. I really loved it. I had a great time in the theater watching it. I was in awe at several points, which we will discuss. But it was a great time, and I think that, it absolutely was a unique take and a unique direction for the MCU. It felt like very much its own thing, almost to the point where, as we'll discuss in spoilers, I'm not sure when we're going to actually have a venue to follow up on some of this stuff, because it is so off the beaten track of everything else that's happening in the MCU that it's like, when are we even going to get a chance to revisit this? Because this is like on a different plane of existence. So
I mean, that was actually one of the I don't want to say issues, because I don't think it was a fault of the movie, but one of the things that I was trying to kind of grasp straws with was how it really fits with the rest of the MCU, because it did feel like an entirely separate movie, aside from like a brief mention of the Avengers. There wasn't really any solid connection. I don't know how they would have done that. I did do my best to like try to rewrite some stuff and script doctor it. I couldn't figure out any way to connect it. In terms of Chloe Zhao's direction, I thought she was really good. I did hear complaints that tonally it wasn't like, it was a little too grim or sad, and there wasn't enough of that like classic Marvel humor. I think they could have actually just gotten rid of all of that, and they should have just leaned into, this is a sad story for the Eternals. This is a family that, broke up, got back together, and then broke up again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, honestly, I think the humor that was in the movie worked pretty well, especially
it was okay, but I feel like they could have leaned more heavily into the darker side of the Eternals and even stray further from the beaten path.
Yeah, no, I didn't particularly need any humor in this, but I think the humor that we did get worked quite well.
Yeah.
Especially Kingo and Karun. I love those two. They were fantastic. Honestly, we could just do a whole episode just on how great of a character Karun is in terms of the comic relief character. Yeah, I mean, it was just Marvel promised us a story that would, in many ways, redefine and recontextualize the entire MCU. I think the Eternals delivered on that. And, yeah, I mean, it was just massive. I mean, just the scale of it. I'm so glad, this is the first time I've seen a movie in a Dolby Atmos theater. I've heard great things about them. And honestly, I wasn't sure how much of the hype I would subscribe to. But I said, you know what, this is a good movie to try it out, see what's going on. And honestly, I have to say, I didn't think it would beat the IMAX experience for me, but I think it did. I really, really dug the Dolby Atmos theater. I mean, it's hard to describe, but I mean, they promise, that it's going to have, the image quality is going to be sharper and the sound is going to be just so immersive. And it's like, how much better can it really be than the standard theater experience? Honestly, it was it's so tough to describe, but honestly, you can tell. Like, the image was so clear, and it's a big screen, like not quite IMAX big, but very big.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the sound's really the main thing. The sound was outstanding. So I'm so glad I saw it not just on one of the biggest screens possible, but also Dolby Atmos theater. Highly recommend it for anybody out there looking for for like a real blockbuster movie-going experience. Yeah, the scale of the movie was huge. The ambition of it was huge, both in terms of the technical ambition and the storytelling ambition. I think one of the criticisms that I will agree with is that people say that this is a story that probably would have been better suited to to a Disney Plus series. I can't argue with that. It probably would have been.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
But as is, and this is kind of ties into why I mentioned the theater, because if it was a Disney Plus series, we would get to spend more time with this story and probably flesh everything out a bit more, and kind of get into all of the great historical context. But again, I mean, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie, there are moments where you just have to see it on a big screen. It wouldn't have the same impact if you were watching it on your TV at home or on your phone. So that's all I'll say about that. We'll get into spoilers in a minute. But yeah, I really, really like the Eternals. Yeah, I in terms of what score I would give it, gosh, I'm gonna give it, honestly, you're gonna say I'm crazy. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I'm gonna go that high, a 9 out of 10.
You're crazy.
Honestly,
even I wouldn't go that high.
I really liked it. I shit you not. I really liked it. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10. I'll get more into why as we delve into spoiler territory, but I feel like this is going to be a movie that is viewed a lot like Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to context in the MCU, where it is for now kind of set apart, but will set up a ton of other things, like how Guardians set up the Infinity Stones and what it first established what they all are and what they do. This is going to, I can't say it, we're not in spoiler territory. So
yeah, but the impact of this movie is going to be
immense. Yeah.
But for right now, it seems kind of out there. But I think by the end, we'll look back and say, oh, yeah, they did say that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's not as low as everyone would think. I'm still pulling at a 6, which is still solid. I felt like it had some issues walking out of the theater. It was like there were definitely some moments where I was like, why? And we will get into a full debate on all of those moments, I'm sure. But yeah, still worth seeing. Or at least if you're involved in all the Marvel stuff and you will continue to be involved in all the Marvel stuff, this is worth seeing. If you're like my dad, don't see it, at least not yet. Maybe come back to it once it becomes more important. But for right now, it's pretty out there, so there's no need to muddy the waters. But yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it.
All right. So 6, 8, 9. That's our non-spoilers review. So I think with that, we will shift into spoilers.